Alright, what's up guys? It's Brev. Welcome to the second comprehensive positional tier list video on YouTube for MLB The Show 22. It's the first one we're posting since launch day, so I'm pretty excited about it. The date today is April 30th of 2022. You guys can follow me on Twitch if you want to see me live streaming. That's twitch.tv/Cbrev. My Twitter is @CbrevMLB. If you're seeing this somewhere other than YouTube, my YouTube is Cbrev, and I do also have a Patreon, which you can access down in the description below. Big shout out to those of you who are patrons right now. I very much appreciate the support. So, like I said, this is the first tier list since launch week, so this is a lot of new cards in the game, a lot of shifting around. Opinions on what's good and what isn't has changed a little bit. And just for our usual disclaimers out the way in the beginning, these are just my subjective opinions. The point of this video is more to give you a framework of what I think is good and bad, and not necessarily to tell you what cards to use. If you're doing well with a guy, stick with them. If you're doing bad with a guy that I say is good, go ahead and ditch him, because there's a ton of options in the game, as always. I think that's everything. Let's dive right into catcher. And just as a reminder for the color coding, a green card is a card that was not in the game when the last tier list was posted. So every player that has a green name is a new card from the last tier list. And then a blue name is a secondary position, although if a new card is in a secondary position, he's just left as green. Anyway, catcher. Nothing has changed in S tier, aside from some shifting around. The biggest one being Mike Piazza all the way up till 4th. Piazza has been one of my best hitters through all my games this year, even on Legend. I don't know if I just click with his swing this year or what, but I had to move him up just because he's been so reliable for me. So he's now ahead of Napoli. I also have 88 Joe Mauer sliding down just a little bit, just because I think there's a decent amount of lefties in the game right now. For like budget squads, and if you're using 88 Mauer, you probably have a budget squad, so maybe a right-handed catcher, someone like Real Muto or Napoli or Piazza may be better, but overall not a lot of shifting there. We do have live series Salvador Perez going into S tier just because the bat is so good. He's going to play pretty terrible defense for you at catcher though. And then in A tier, we have a newcomer, Gabriel Moreno, the prospect card. New 92 Johnny Bench, Francisco Alvarez, and tops now Joey Bart in A tier. And then stuff really starts to fall off in B tier. Just a bunch of gold cards there, including Yasmani Grandal. On to first base, which has seen quite a bit of shifting as well. Obviously, 99 Frank Thomas, we still have number 1. We got Pujols at second, one of the best bats in the game, one of the best values in terms of stubs. Even though he is like 90K, it's still worth every single stub, in my opinion. But moving up into 5th, we have 90 face of the franchise, Josh Bell. This has been one of my most reliable hitters. Switch hitting has been really good for me so far this year because of the variety of handedness of starting pitcher you may see. There's a ton of different pitchers people are using. Some of them are right-handed, some of them are left-handed, and Josh Bell just crushes everyone at first base. So that's why he is the top first baseman that's not Pujols or related to a collection. In a very closely behind him, though, we have both Adam Dunn and Jason Giambi. Big thumper lefty bats that can play first base. Don't forget, Adam Dunn is a outfielder primary, but he does have a first base secondary, so if you search for him on the market or whatever, he's going to be in the outfield. Brian Howard sliding down relatively, but hasn't really moved. The only guy who's really leapfrogged him is Josh Bell. Dunn and Giambi are just better versions of him, in my opinion. And then rounding out S plus tier, we've got Vlad Jr. Live Series and Jose Ramirez, who you're going to see in S plus tier, I think, for every single position that he plays. What an upgrade for him on his Live Series card. They literally upgraded his stats for his righties, which is what he was lacking, and he's still getting positive inside edge all the time with all the quirks, with the switch hitting, with the positional versatility. What an amazing card right now. The real struggle is just figuring out where to play him. But yeah, Jose Ramirez, S plus tier for first base. At the top of S tier, just narrowly missing S plus just because first base is so deep. Matt Carpenter, I really love that card a lot. Again, I like his positional versatility for the bench as well. A great second baseman. Really like the card a lot. He's not that far off attribute-wise from Chase Utley. He's missing a ton of defense and speed, obviously, and then his hitting stats for his lefties are a little bit worse. But as far as a bat, pretty close to Utley, which is saying a lot for that Matt Carpenter card. Probably should have discussed that part of it during second base, but just came to mind there. In S tier, not a whole lot moving around. We got Devers in there in the middle of S tier. And then in A tier, towards the bottom, we got the new Wade Boggs. The event reward, I wish he had a little bit more power, but overall, a pretty solid first base option. You'll see him on the third base slide as well. Here are some other options for first base if you need them. And I should have mentioned earlier that each position is only the top 50 cards rated, aside from outfield and starting pitcher, which are deeper positions. I rated 60 of them. So if you don't see a guy, it's just because I don't feel that he's in the top 50 for the position. All right, on to second base. A little bit of movement here. Chase Utley's still number 1, obviously 97 overall. But then jumping all the way up to third is Jose Ramirez. So I think second base is one of the best spots for him. It's a middle infield position where you can maybe be lacking in terms of bat sometimes. And second base obviously is better than shortstop for getting away with, the silver defense that J-Ram does bring to the table. So as far as second baseman that's not tied to a collection, Jose Ramirez, number 1 there for me. Close second, obviously, is Jazz Chisholm. Then we got Seager and Tatis Jr. there. And then we've got newcomers Matt Carpenter and Ryan Sandberg. Ryan Sandberg's at 93 overall. That's a mistype. I do apologize for that. But yeah, Carpenter, amazing second baseman. Honestly, pretty close to Seager and Jazz for me. If you haven't tried the card yet, I would give him a shot, especially if you're looking for a new lefty bat in the infield. And then Sandberg's a weird one. Sandberg maybe could be rated higher. The one thing that sucks about Sandberg is that he has no power versus left. He's got 53 power versus left. Just a really weird statted card. He's like 91, 86 versus righties, and then 118 contact versus left, but like no power. So could be higher, could be lower. I haven't used the card yet. He just came out, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago. But that's just roughly where I think he'll end up. And then at the bottom of S+, we've got Trey Turner dropping down. After getting downgraded from a 90 to an 88, he's dropped down quite a bit on most of the positions that he plays. In S tier, at the bottom there, we've got Honus Wagner, who's a little bit better of a second baseman than I think people are giving him credit for. But then again, there's just so many options at second base. There's not really a reason for anyone to use him. And then in A tier, we've got Brian Roberts and Anthony Rendon as new cards. And towards the bottom of A tier, things really start to fall off as well. Second base and shortstop, some of the shallowest positions in the game. So for both of those positions, I would highly recommend trying to snag someone from S+ or S tier to give yourself the best team that you can field. Here's some more options for second base if you are inclined. These are mostly just gold cards. Again, pretty shallow position after the top 20. On to third base. The number 1 third baseman in the entire game for me is Albert Pujols. Can't stress enough how good that card is. You have almost max out contact versus right. I love reverse split righties. Third baseman, perfect spot for someone who plays okay defense. So yeah, Pujols is my guy at third. I've seen almost every God Squad running him at third base as well, so that should say a lot. It's not just me, it's everyone using him at third. But then in the top 5, we've got 2 new cards from the spring cleanup program, Eddie Matthews and Ernie Banks. I do have Matthews ahead of Banks as a pure third baseman, just because Matthews has the primary there, and the lefty bat with the reverse splits is really good. Obviously, you probably want to play Banks at shortstop for the value for him as well, but still a top 5 third baseman, in my opinion, ahead of Troy Glass. You can see Jose Ramirez again in the top 10 for third base, and then rounding out S+, we got Seager, Devers, and Matt Carpenter showing his face yet again. Third base, really deep position right now. At the top of S, just barely missing the cut, is 91 Vlad Jr. Again, Trey Turner dropping down. New Ron Santo in the middle of S tier. Haven't got a chance to use him either, and obviously haven't used him in past games because he's a new legend, so that's just roughly where I'm guessing he'll end up. Could be higher, could be lower. And then rounding out S tier, a couple of prospects, Bobby Witt Jr. and O'Neal Cruz. O'Neal Cruz, one of the best bang for your buck cards in the game right now. Basically Cody Bellinger, but can play shortstop and third base. Pretty good card. In A tier, we have Seiya Suzuki, and there's Wade Boggs yet again. And then on to the other tiers. Still some diamonds here at third base just because it's a deeper position. But again, trying to stick with the first page is usually a good call. These second pages where we rank the cards 31 through 50 are going to be a lot more relevant as we move throughout the season. And there's tons of diamond cards in the game, but for right now, it's kind of just a bit of an extra. All right, on to shortstop. Second best shortstop besides Michael Young, I do have Ernie Banks. I think Ernie Banks is a really good shortstop, obviously, especially for people that don't have collections done. Second best shortstop in the game for me. He is going to play pretty sketchy defense just because his speed is so slow. You know, only having a gold shield at short and then only having 50 speed, it's going to limit his range a lot, but I do think the bat is worth it. It's a beautifully statted card for the starting pitcher meta that we're in right now, and I really, really think he's going to play extremely well. So I will be picking him up for my shortstop. And then in third, yet again, Jose Ramirez. And, you know, as I talked about in second base, I really think the best positions for Jose are probably second base or shortstop, just because it's the positions where you're most likely missing a big bat, especially a switch hitting bat. So sacrifice a little bit of defense for the bat there. In fourth, we got Seager, and then Lindor, Chisholm, Tatis, Trey Turner dropping down again. And then rounding out S+ tier, we got Bobby Witt Jr., who I do like a lot. Kind of sucks that his stats versus righties aren't better, but great speed, great defense, hits lefties well. Pretty good card overall. Top of S tier, just barely missing it, is O'Neal Cruz yet again. Then we've got Seiya and Ron Santo in the middle of S tier yet again. And then shortstop, like I said, definitely going to fall off as you start to get to the bottom of A tier. We got new cards, Noelvi Marte and Manny Minoso there. And some additional options for shortstop here for y'all. All right, outfield has changed a little bit. If you guys saw, we did a top 10 outfielders video with GUTFOXX on the channel a week or two ago. Things are relatively the same, although the bottom of the top 10 has shifted quite a bit for me, just with new cards and just anticipating or moving guys around based on how I've been doing with them. I do have Mike Trout number 1 now, especially with his upgrade from a 95 overall to a 97 overall. Best card in the game probably now. Quirks included in everything. Guys have an amazing season. Definitely the best outfielder. And then I have Clemente second, Pujols in third. Obviously, I think infield spot's better for Pujols, but still a top 3 outfielder in my opinion. That's how good the bat is. Gibson in fourth, Acuna in fifth, and then newcomer Christian Yelich in sixth there. Reynolds 7th, Cedric Mullins shooting way up all the way to 8th. Been one of my best bats on Legend difficulty. Hits left on left extremely well, and overall just definitely deserving of an S+ tier. And then we got 90 Mike Trout and the new 93 David Justice running out S+ tier. I know David Justice is really slow, 45 speed, but everything else is good. And I thought he was worthy of S+ just because of the bat. And like I said in a previous video, I've been messing around with pretty slow corner outfielders and haven't been getting punished as much as I probably should have. They still make pretty routine plays all the time. So you really only miss out on like hard hit balls in the gap that maybe someone with more speed would have been able to run under. But on like lazy fly balls, they're fine out there. Top of S tier, we got J-Rod, which is another card I really love. Obviously, we got Dawson there too, who we haven't had access to besides BR yet, so I'm kind of just guessing that's where he'll end up. Have loved Andre Dawson cards in years past, so I'm excited to try this one out once he is available through the April monthly awards program. Middle of S tier, we've got some shifting around. I do have Live Series Byron Buxton actually ahead of Face of the Franchise Byron Buxton now. Buxton got a huge upgrade with the roster update from an 86 to an 89 overall. And the reason I have him ahead of the Face of the Franchise is because if he's getting positive inside edge versus righties, he's by far a better card, because the main issue with Buxton's Face of the Franchise card is the super low contact versus right, whereas with his live series, if he's facing a righty in real life and gets that inside edge boost, going to solve a lot of the issues that the card has, make him a lot more balanced hitter. So keep an eye on him if you want to throw him in your lineup when he has positive IE versus righties. Rounding out S tier there, we got Acuna, Robert, Tatis Jr., Bellinger, and then some new cards at the top of A+ tier. Eric Davis, basically a Buxton without quirks, which is a good card. Adam Dunn there too, despite the defense. Seiya Suzuki and Kenny Lofton. Again, outfield is super deep, so There's a lot more options here. Bryce Harper getting downgraded from an 89 to an 87, so we dropped him to A- tier there. Finley, Dickerson, Cruz there as new cards in A-, and then in B tier, Honus Wagner, and C tier, the bottom there, a bunch of new cards that I just don't think are very good. Specifically, Tim Salmon can never get his card to work. I think he's pretty bad this year. All right, on to starting pitching, which is shifting around quite a bit as well. So we do have a new card, David Price, in the top 5 there. I've got him at number 3. We also have Dallas Keuchel shooting way up into the top 5. I have him at number 4. Obviously, number 1's Randy. Number 2 is Shohei, in my opinion, just because the bat is so big. He did get upgraded from a 93 to a 94 in the last roster update as well, so that's pretty big. So my top 5 is Johnson, Ohtani, Price, Keuchel, and DeGrom. Corbin Burns also getting upgraded, just barely missing the top 5. And then I have Mussina, Willis, Webb, and Hershiser. Hershiser probably a bit lower as of right now, but I'm anticipating at some point soon they fix his delivery, because they can't keep going this many days without fixing it, I hope. Top of S tier, Don Sutton, kind of a slept-on card. I think he's a really solid starter, great hits per 9, a disgusting screwball that a lot of people take multiple innings to figure out how to square up. Very slept-on starting pitcher card, and not very expensive at all. So if you're looking for a new starter, I would definitely give Don Sutton a shot. I really like his card. Just don't throw the four-seamer too often. That's my best advice. Alek Manoah shooting up to the top of S tier as well. Surprisingly been one of my best starters on Hall of Fame and Legend, probably just because he has high hits per 9, but the sinker and circle changeup dynamic that the card brings to the table is really strong. Then in the middle of the S tier, we've got Tom Seaver. Haven't had the chance to use him yet. Obviously, he just came out. And another card along with Orel Hershiser that has not had his delivery updated yet. He's got a position player delivery as a glitch. Same with Hershiser. Same with Kyle Hendricks. Same with Lefty Grove. So until they get those fixed, Seaver pretty comfortably kind of just a middle-of-the-road starting pitcher there. Mai shooting down below Seaver, and then Stroman rounding out S tier. In A tier, some new cards here. Vita Blue, Bob Gibson. Garrett Cole getting downgraded. Sorry. But Garrett Cole did pick up a cutter, so that makes him a little bit better, I think, now. Cutter over 2-seam is an upgrade for Garrett Cole, I think, despite the overall downgrade. Greg Maddux, the event reward at A tier there, and then a couple of gold tops now starting pitchers that I think are good. Nestor Cortez and Hunter Green. And then for the rest of starting pitching, things really start to fall off at B tier for sure. Saberhagen and Lauer there, McKenzie Gore as well. And then the Ross Stripling from the program I just think is bad. So that's it for starting pitcher. On to the relievers, a bunch of new relievers. They've done an amazing job adding new reliever cards to the game early on this year. I'm really impressed with it. Some shifting around with guys as well. So I still have Devin Williams as my number 1. I will stick with that. He's been my most reliable reliever for sure. Then Kenley Jansen, collection reward. But then in third, we have Steve Cishek. This is a card you absolutely should be picking up for your bullpen, especially with the dip in price that he had recently. They put event rewind packs in the new event. So he's down to like 15K stubs, which is an insane steal. And the same applies to Ottavino, who you may be surprised to see in fourth there. Very much a budget reliever. That's very good. Ottavino been probably my second most reliable right-handed reliever. I think he's one of the most slept-on relief pitcher cards in the game, especially with how two-seamers work this year. You're going to be doing a lot of sequencing off the two-seam with Ottavino, and two-seamers do not have increased par size when you throw them high. So very good card. Ottavino also, in my experience, has had a lot better control than his card would suggest. Even though he has super low walks per 9, his par sizes are very reasonable, even on Legend. So relatively accurate as well with a funky delivery. A very good relief pitcher card. In fifth, we got 91 Mariano, and then sixth is Clase. And then rounding out the top 10, we've got Houston Street, Michael King tops now, and then Raisel Iglesias getting upgraded from an 84 to an 87. Definitely an S tier right-handed reliever now. The only new card in A tier is Dennis Eckersley, who honestly I think is pretty bad. And I think if you're filling out your bullpen, I think you should be able to do it with the guys in S tier. And I think you're going to have a good bullpen if you do so. All right, on to lefties. New cards as well, all over the place. Obviously, we got Zach Britton, number 1. I think he's the best lefty reliever in the game by a lot. He might be the best reliever in the game in general. Definitely a must cop from the new program. And then we've got John Franco there in third, another amazing left-handed reliever. The thing that's great about Franco is he's a crafty lefty, which is a lot different than the other lefties you're going to have in your pen, unless you're running Aaron Loop also, who we'll talk about in fifth there. But Franco, just a much different pitch mix and pitch style than the other lefties you will be using. So if you have to use multiple lefties in a game, he's a great complement. Maybe you go like Chapman in the 7th and then a righty in the 8th, and then maybe your opponent has a weak part of their lineup against lefties, so you go Franco in the 9th, and he's a lot different than Chapman was in the 7th, so they have a hard time squaring him up. Hader getting upgraded to a 90, so he's in 4th there. Best live series reliever. And then Silver Aaron Loop in 5th. So some of you may be scratching your head, but I already had Aaron Loop in S/A tier last tier list. And then he got massive upgrades to his hits per 9. His hits per 9's up to 102 now, even though he's a silver card. And then obviously, if you guys have used his finest card last year, his delivery is so funky. His pitch mix is basically perfect. And he is another crafty lefty out of the pen, so he gets a lot of the same benefits that I talked about with John Franco. So probably the best budget card in the entire game, Silver Aaron Loop. If you need another lefty and you don't have any stubs, that would be my go-to guy. And then at the bottom of SA tier, we've got Billy Wagner there. In B tier, we've got Lefty Grove and David Price. Lefty is another card that maybe would be a tier higher if his delivery was proper, but as of right now, it is not. All right, to wrap out the video, we are going to go into the team builds. I've made some adjustments to this stuff, so I don't do the slide with the yellow anymore. If you guys watched the tier list in the past, I had a team build slide with names in yellow, which would be the guy that's being replaced from the last tier list. Didn't see much interest in that, so we're just leaving it out. And then in addition, I added a new slide, which is going to be the one after this, because I felt like this slide specifically wasn't accomplishing exactly what I wanted it to do, which is kind of a somewhat of a no money spent team. So the restrictions on this team, this is the best team with no collections, no high live series, so that's 90 plus live series, no World Series rewards, and no BR rewards. So this was my best attempt at kind of a budget squad, and in general, this will get probably more relevant as we get through the rest of the year. But as you can see, there's guys like Pujols and Price on here who are pretty expensive, Yelich as well. So I did add another budget slide after this, long story short. But anyway, I've also ordered the lineup how I would order it if I was using this team, so that should help you kind of set your lineup. Again, in general, we're trying to alternate righty-left and protect handedness and all that good stuff. But we've got Brian Reynolds leading off in right field, then Jazz at second, Pujols at third, Yelich in left, Banks at shortstop, Josh Bell at first, Mike Piazza at catcher, and then Cedric Mullins in center field. On the bench, I like having one righty in the infield, one righty in the outfield, and then the same for lefties, and then one switch hitter. So our infielder righty is going to be Bobby Witt Jr. Our outfielder righty is Luis Robert, great bench bat, amazing versus lefties and amazing speed. And then our lefties are Justice and Seager, and our switch hitter is Mickey Mantle. Rotation is Price, Burns, Webb, Hershiser, and Don Sutton. And then in the bullpen, in the last tier list, we were running 5 righties, 3 lefties. We still will on the next slide, but in general, I think there's probably enough good lefties in the game now, if you have all the good ones, that you can go back to running 4-4, meaning 4 righties, 4 lefties. So that's what this slide is doing. We've got Devin Williams, Steve Cishek, Adam Ottavino, and Mariano Rivera for our right-handed relievers. And we've got Zach Britton, Aroldis Chapman, John Franco, and Aaron Loop for our lefties. Next team build is the best team with no card that costs over 35,000 stubs. This is my attempt to kind of reconcile the last slide and provide a better budget team. One big disclaimer for this slide that you may notice right away is all of the spring cleanup cards are in here. As of right now, the spring cleanup cards are selling for about 50K. The reason they're on this slide is because they will absolutely be less than 35K in like a week. So just be patient. And if there's any card from the program that you don't grind for yourself, definitely pick them up in a week or two before the program rotates out. I can almost guarantee they'll be cheaper than 35K. So that's why I included them in here, even though currently they're more than 35K. But yeah, this is my best attempt at kind of a budget squad where everyone else but those program cards specifically are cheaper than 35K. So we've got Reynolds leading off in right field again, Jazz at second again, and then we got Banks playing shortstop, hitting third, and Matthews playing third base, hitting fourth, and then face of the franchise, Mike Trout in left, Josh Bell at first, Piazza at catcher, and Cedric Mullins in center field. On the bench, we've got Seiya Suzuki, who you can get for free by doing the April Play of the Month program. Luis Robert is our outfielder, pinch hitter. Again, Seiya's an outfielder, but he has infield secondaries, so kind of a weird one there. He's kind of like our infielder. Justice and Seager for our lefties, and then Mickey Mantle for our switch hitter yet again. Our rotation is Corbin Burns, Logan Webb, Don Sutton, Alek Manoah, and Corey Kluber. I think every single one of those cards except for Burns is under 20K, so definitely a great budget rotation there. And then for this team build, we are running 5 righties, 3 lefties. The only reason is our 4th lefty would be Billy Wagner, and I think I'd rather have Emmanuel Clase than Billy Wagner, so we're going to slide him in there instead. So our righties are Devin Williams, Steve Cishek, Adam Ottavino, Mariano Rivera, and Emmanuel Clase. And our lefties are Zach Britton, Aroldis Chapman, and 78 Aaron Loop. And there's no green on this slide because it's the first time I'm doing this slide. There will be green on the next tier list. All right, and finally, rounding out the video, not much has changed in the lineup for the best team possible. This is the best team possible if you had access to every card in the game. The only change is Kurt Gibson now holding it down in left field. I have him rated as the 4th best outfielder, and Pujols is playing third base in this team build, so that makes him the 3rd best outfielder for this team. Again, the lineup is ordered how I would order it. The bench is entirely new. Great bench options. We got Banks and Acuna for our righties, Justice and Seager for our lefties, and then Jose Ramirez for our switch hitter. In their rotation, again, Price and Keuchel jumping in there, along with Johnson, Ohtani, and DeGrom. And then for this bullpen, we are running 4-4 because we have access to all the good lefties. So our righties are Devin Williams, Kenley Jansen, Steve Cishek, and Adam Ottavino. And our lefties are Britton, Chapman, Franco, and Hader. So that's going to do it for the tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you could like the video, that helps me out a ton. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comment section below. Otherwise, hope this helped you guys build your team, add some new cards to your squad. Take care. I'll see you next time.